What up, my fellow dorks? It is the Turtle Dork back with a new movie review for you today. So this review is for the documentary about Mr. Fred Rogers. Yes, Mr. Rogers. It is Won't You Be My Neighbor. Now, this is a film that debuted earlier this year at the Sundance Film Festival, which is in January. And it has been getting rave reviews. And when the trailer hit earlier this year, it's a trailer that really, I think anybody who saw that trailer realized that this was going to be a documentary that was definitely going to pull at your heartstrings. It was going to resonate with you deeply, especially if you were somebody that watched Mr. Rogers or was extremely affected by Mr. Rogers as a child. And I have to say that this documentary kind of follows suit from what his show kind of represented for children of all ages and for adults as well. We really get to see the backstory with him as far as how he got into television. Now, this was a man that was getting into ministry, and I think when he was about to go to seminary school was around the turn of when television was becoming more prominent, especially in people's households. And he saw how television was kind of influencing kids and the stuff that he was seeing on television. And he felt like, okay, this is a great tool to use. Let me see if there's something that I could do to kind of give kids a different alternative to some of the kind of slapsticky, violent nature that was being shown on television. And I think his show premiered around 1968. And the thing that was awesome and that you really get to see about his show is how he really deals with a lot of real world heavy issues that a lot of people probably wouldn't think that kids could really handle or deal with. And early in the documentary, you get to see where they're talking a lot about the Vietnam War, and they're talking about people dying and people getting killed. And he really tackles these issues head on. And he does it through a lot of different methods. He does it definitely with one-on-one interaction with the kids, but he also does it in a way where he does it through these puppets. And these puppets are a great tool that he uses to really kind of express a lot of his own feelings. And you get to see that in the documentary as well, where him as a child, he explains why he was never really able to express or show anger. So he was able to kind of have that outlet in other ways, whether it was through music, playing the piano, or through these puppets. And one of these puppets was Daniel the Tiger. And through Daniel the Tiger, he was really able to kind of show his own vulnerability, which I thought was just absolutely magnificent in the way he was able to do that. And I think that was also something that he felt, because he didn't have that as a child, he was able to use the puppet to really give the kids that he was talking to that outlet to be able to express themselves. So it was just phenomenal in the way that he was able to really just kind of dive into these heavy issues, whether it had to do with the assassination of Robert Kennedy, dealing with race issues, which we get to see with one of his characters, Officer Clemens, dealing with divorce, dealing with all of these different things that truly deeply affect kids. And it's amazing that we really haven't had anything like that now. And they also kind of mention that in the documentary as well. It's like, you know, could someone like Mr. Rogers work in our world today? And one of the parts that really kind of affected me was, don't ask what would Mr. Rogers do today. Ask yourself, what would you do? And when you see how a lot of this stuff is presented in the documentary, it is extremely profound. It really, I mean, just at the heart of this film, it's really just about people and people connecting with each other and people being kind to each other. And I know, especially in the world that we live in today and how cynical we are, that can seem a bit disingenuous, but it comes off with such purity in this film. I mean, that's another aspect of this film that I thought was really fascinating, is how Mr. Rogers got ridiculed, how he got parodied. And he was never like the type of guy that was like, and that's the thing about him that I think sometimes you can have the perception of him is that he was kind of like this religious prude that really couldn't have fun. But you see him behind the set, you see him with his cast and his crew, and he was a guy that he could really have a lot of fun with his crew. And he was kind of loose, and he knew how to have a good time. But you could see how it would affect him when you would see like some of these SNL parodies and some of these different talk shows when they would kind of ridicule him. That would deeply affect him. But he took it in stride, and he never wavered as far as like what his desire and what his direction and what his purpose, what he felt his purpose was. But I mean, and he always felt genuine. That's the thing about this man. It's like he always felt genuine about everything that he was doing. And I think a lot of people were probably a little taken aback by that, especially a lot of adults. I think they didn't really know how to respond to that, react to that, or receive that. It's just like how we always say, you try to tear down or you're critical of something that you don't understand. And I think, especially for adults, I think a lot of people just didn't understand Mr. Rogers, and didn't understand his connection with kids and why he felt such a connection to kids and why it was so important for him to realize that kids needed to be protected, especially from what they were seeing on television at that time. So, yeah, I mean, there's so much about this documentary. The scene with the senator, again, I don't want to this is not really a spoiler review, but there are just some magnificent moments where you're able to see the passion from this man and how that was able to turn people and how that affected people, how that changed people. It's an inspirational, man. It is so inspirational, especially today when I think a documentary like this is something that we really, really need. So, yeah, this movie definitely is a high recommendation for me. Definitely check this out. If it's in your area, seek this film out immediately. So, if you've seen it, let's have a conversation about it in the comments below. Go ahead, rate, like, subscribe, and share. And go ahead and check out my other dorks, at MouthDork, at The Disco Dork, and at Sidewalk Siren. And as for me, I am The Turtle Dork. And with that, I'm out.